Do you need to pay a real estate agent if you're the buyer? The short answer is no. As a buyer, you never need to pay a real estate agent because broker commissions are always a seller closing cost. So typically what happens in a real estate transaction is a seller signs a listing agreement with a seller's broker, otherwise known as a listing broker. And in a traditional listing arrangement, this is typically for a fixed percentage, say 6%, which is something you hear quite commonly about. And this covers the entire real estate commission. So the seller would typically pay the 6% regardless of what happens in terms of whether the buyer has an agent or not. And the seller's agent will also state in the listing agreement that they may co-broke or split the commission per local MLS association rules. So if the buyer has a buyer's broker, which happens 75% to 90% of the time, depending on the market, then the seller's broker will split that commission according to local association rules, usually at least equally in favor of the buyer's broker, so oftentimes 50-50. And so the buyer's broker would get 3%, seller's broker would keep 3%. If the buyer chose not to have an agent and either was unrepresented, went for dual agency or whatnot, then the seller's broker would keep all 6% or both sides of the commission, and it would be a rare but lucky double-sided payday for that seller's agent. But in either case, the buyer is not expected to pay broker commission. Again, it's not a buyer closing cost, it's a seller closing cost traditionally. And even better, buyers are typically not expected to sign any sort of exclusivity agreement either if they chose to work with a buyer's agent. This is especially true in more competitive metro areas such as New York City or Miami, where there's lots of realtors versus potential transactions. So there's no exclusivity required. Buyers essentially operate as quote-unquote free agents. They can technically cancel and decide to work with someone else really at any point. So yeah, that's really it. So don't ever be confused about that. I mean, it's one of the points that first-time buyers may get mixed up about is, hey, I can find everything myself online. I can search online myself pretty easily. Why do I need a buyer's agent? I don't want to pay for one. Well, it's important to just recognize that you would never pay for one anyway, just because it is a seller closing cost, or the seller is essentially paying for you to have a buyer's agent if you choose to have one. So it's really use it or lose it. And just remember, it is one of life's most important transactions. So you might as well have someone who's been through it before, guide you throughout the process. And of course, we can do at Hauseit better than just quote-unquote free. Besides the advice and guidance throughout the process, our buyer's brokers will give you 2/3 of the buyer broker commission back to you at closing, subject to us keeping a minimum of 1%. So that can be quite substantial, especially here in Miami or even in New York. Some new developments will often offer more than the typical 3% to buyers brokers, 5, 6, or 7% to entice buyers brokers, and 2/3 of that can more than cover your closing costs. So let us know if you have any questions. Leave us a comment below, hit like or subscribe. My name is Chris at Hauseit, and we'll see you on the next one.